Hi, welcome to my review of Army of Darkness. This is the final piece of Sam Raimi's original Evil Dead trilogy, and the story picks up exactly where we left off in Evil Dead 2. You know, the incantation that went all wrong. They've accidentally sent Ash back 700 years to medieval times, and the people of this time basically believe that he has been sent to save them and protect them from these Deadites. And Ash really wants nothing to do with it and just wants to get back to his own time. This one's got quite a bit more story than the previous two. You know, it's got a bit of a character arc for Ash to go on, gives him something to achieve and a bit of a journey to go on. And his story here is that he's basically going to go and recover this book of the dead for the people, and in return they're going to perform this spell on him that will send him back home to his own time. And of course, knowing Ash, everything that goes wrong to him, all the shit that happens, all the bad luck that he has, he gets the charm wrong and accidentally awakens an army of the dead that he must fight against with these people. And you know, despite everything going on, all the wacky stuff, all the plot that's going on in this film, it's actually by far the weakest of the trilogy for me, unfortunately. And I think it's the only one of the three that on revisiting, I haven't liked it any more than I have the previous times that I've watched it. Good things first though, Bruce Campbell as Ash, his performance here is better than in any other films in the trilogy. And I think just because by this point, like his comedic timing, his enthusiasm and his confidence within the role just really shine through. Like when you're watching him, you can tell that he's just having the time of his life playing this role. And it is infectious. You just can't help but watch it and really enjoy being along on the ride for him. And I'm sure, like, you know, a lot of people I know love this movie. And I'm sure one of the main reasons for that is just because of how lovable this character of Ash is and how Bruce Campbell really brings it to life. Like with the previous two films, you've got all the wacky Sam Raimi effects work here, a lot of cool creature designs and settings and costumes and all of that good stuff. I do think though, again, like what I said about the end of Evil Dead 2, where I think he started to get too ambitious with the effects. You get a lot of that again here, especially towards the end of the film. You have all of the stop motion stuff going on, especially with this Army of the Dead. And like there's some scenes where you can tell it's actors in makeup and it's choreographed really well and looks quite good, and I really get into the fun of that. But some of it, the stop motion now, just looks so dated. And you know, I appreciate stop motion. It does look cool in like old animated stuff, but in old live action films with stop motion, to me, it doesn't look good now, to be honest. I really find that it dates a movie, and it feels like here you can't really tell whether it's there to intentionally look bad, to kind of be fitting with the sort of slapstick comedic tone of the film, or whether it is actually meant to be, those effects are meant to be taken seriously. I'm not entirely sure, but for me now, a lot of those scenes, especially at the end, they just don't look great. And I think maybe it was just, you know, for the technology of 1992, this was probably just stretching it a little bit too far. The main reason this one just doesn't work for me though is that once again we have a huge tonal shift where Army of Darkness is basically just a slapstick comedy. And it's such a jarring change in vibe from the previous films. I just really struggled to get on board with it. And you know, as I said in my previous review of Evil Dead 2, where they started to introduce that slapstick comedy, slapstick just really is not my thing. It doesn't make me laugh. And I don't know whether it's just the type of comedy that I grew up with. Maybe it's the generation, I'm not sure, but I'm just not into it at all. So particularly, you know, here, that middle section where Ash has to go off on his own to retrieve the book, and you get all that crazy stuff in the house with the mini Ashes, and it's like, it's full on, you know, ramped up to another level slapstick comedy where it's just sliding over, throwing stuff and bumping your head over and over again, and silly faces. And I find that section of the film just work to get through, to be honest. I tire of it, and yeah, it just becomes a little bit of a drag for me. You know, there's still sequences that I do enjoy here, and there is some funny moments, Like the opening sequence of the film is quite good fun, and like there's a few things that did make me laugh. Like there's some good lines with Ash, and where he messes up the charm and he's trying to cough through the last bit of the words that he's forgotten. That was great. I enjoyed that, but this is obviously Sam Raimi's type of comedy, and this film I know works for so many people. A lot of people love this film, and it's had a bit of a cult following ever since it was released. And as I said, it's a well-made film. It's a creative, well-made, fun, interesting film. It really just comes down to whether this style is your thing or not. And unfortunately for me, it just really isn't. As well, changing the setting here, like I absolutely love the cabin in the woods setting, kind of like that confined location, the small cast. And changing that here to this great big medieval setting is another change that I just don't really enjoy. Like if you were to write down on paper the idea for a film and it was going to be like a spoof parody of a fantasy film set in medieval times, I would not choose to watch that. It's only because it's part of this Evil Dead trilogy that I ever watched this film, but that really would not be something I would know straight off the bat. That is something that I'm not going to enjoy. So yeah, that change as well for me is one that I don't particularly get on board with. So yeah, there's a number of things about this film, unfortunately, that mean that it just doesn't really work for me in the same way that it does for other people. Something funny actually that happened last night when I was watching this. So I do actually own this movie on DVD, but I didn't want to set up my DVD player because I saw it was streaming free on Prime. So I was like, may as well just watch it there. And towards the very end of the film, like the whole last sequence, I was sitting there and I was like, am I going crazy? Because I just don't remember any of this final sequence at all. I started to wonder. I was like, the last time I watched it, did I fall asleep and just completely forget about all this bit? And anyway, go to Google like the movie and look up some stuff about it afterwards and find out there was like 3 or 4 different versions of this film. Had absolutely no idea about this. And the DVD that I have is actually the original theatrical version with the whole ending where he's in the hardware store. And yeah, so it's just quite funny seeing these completely alternate endings that I had no idea about. I genuinely just thought I was going crazy and have just remembered in my mind dreamt this completely different ending, which was quite funny. But saying between the two, I would definitely say the theatrical one in the hardware store is way better, way more fitting to the film as well, because that the light-hearted nature and fun of this movie it just perfectly goes with the theatrical ending. It's so much fun. It's actually a really good last scene that I enjoy. Whereas the one that I watched last night, which is the director's cut, it's like 15 minutes longer as well. But the final sort of apocalyptic scene looking at London where he's got the time wrong, it was just a little bit dark and depressing, I thought, and didn't really fit with the vibe of the rest of the film. So there you go. If you haven't seen Army of Darkness before, definitely watch the theatrical version of the film. So that's all my thoughts for you on Army of Darkness. Please do let me know in the comments as well what you think of the film. I'm sure for a lot of you watching this, Army of Darkness could easily be your favourite. I feel like with this trilogy, in terms of filmmaking, they're kind of all of equal quality. It's just that it really comes down to that preference, doesn't it, between like the tone and the vibe of these films and which one kind of just gels with you the most. And for me, I prefer to go toward the atmosphere, the horror. That just kind of works best for me. But I know, say, with Army of Darkness, it certainly has a lot of fans. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this, please do come to join me on my next review, which is going to be the Evil Dead remake. That is a very different film. There is no fun, there is no laughing allowed in that one. So it's been a few years since I've seen it, so I'm quite looking forward to rewatching and getting my thoughts out on that. So please do come and join me for that review. So thank you very much for watching. Please do leave me a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.